Yoo Young-chul, one of South Korea's most infamous serial killers, was arrested in 2004 for a series of gruesome murders that terrorized the nation. His targets were primarily the elderly and young women, which he brutally murdered using a hammer. His actions not only caused profound grief and fear, but also prompted significant changes in the South Korean criminal justice system. Yoo Young-chul's background is marked by significant hardship and societal marginalization. Born into poverty, Yoo experienced a tumultuous childhood that included exposure to domestic violence and parental neglect. Educationally, he struggled and eventually dropped out of high school, which further limited his opportunities in a rapidly modernizing South Korea. His early adult life was characterized by a series of low-paying jobs, from which he was frequently fired due to his temper and antisocial behavior. These early experiences contributed to a growing resentment against society, particularly against those he perceived as wealthy or privileged. The chronology of Yoo Young-chul's crimes shows a disturbing escalation in violence and frequency. His initial crimes were largely opportunistic burglaries that began in the late 1990s. By 2003, his criminal activities took a brutal turn. His first series of murders involved elderly victims, whom he targeted for their perceived wealth. He would gain entry to their homes by pretending to be a government worker offering free services. Once inside, he would kill them using hammers or other blunt objects, and then rob their homes. By early 2004, he expanded his target demographic to include young women, particularly those working in massage parlors. He lured these women under the guise of being a customer, then murdered them, often in their own workspaces. The investigation into Yoo Young-chul's crimes was initially slow, hampered by the lack of connections made between the murders of the elderly and those of the massage parlor workers. However, once the connection was made, the police were able to form a more coherent profile of the killer. The critical breakthrough came when a victim's mobile phone, sold by Yoo to a pawn shop, was traced back to him. Surveillance and further investigation led to his arrest on July 15, 2004. Upon his arrest, police found tools and belongings of the victims in his possession, which he later admitted to stealing from the crime scenes. During his trial in 2005, Yoo Young-chul was found guilty of 20 murders. He confessed to 21, but one was dismissed due to insufficient evidence. The court sentenced him to death in December 2004, citing the extreme malice of his crimes and the suffering he inflicted on his victims and their families. His trial was notable for the lack of remorse he showed. He even claimed that he would kill again if released. His sentence was upheld by the Supreme Court of South Korea in 2006. Yoo Young-chul's motives appear to stem from deep-seated hatred and a desire for revenge against certain groups in society. He explicitly stated that his elderly victims were targeted because of their wealth, and he believed they deserved to die for living off the toils of the younger generation. His attacks on female massage therapists were driven by a warped moral judgment, viewing them as morally corrupt and deserving of punishment. Psychologically, Yoo exhibits many characteristics typical of antisocial personality disorder, including a lack of empathy, deceitfulness, and a disregard for the law and the rights of others. His behavior in court, along with his interactions with law enforcement, displayed clear signs of psychopathy. He also exhibited narcissistic traits, such as grandiosity and a lack of remorse, coupled with a perverse pride in his actions. The case of Yoo Young-chul had a profound impact on South Korean society. It led to increased security measures, changes in the law regarding the handling of serial crime cases, and sparked a national debate on the death penalty. As of the latest updates, Yoo remains on death row with no execution date set, as South Korea has not conducted an execution since 1997.